We are well on our way to having a complete RPG. We want a way, though, to have multiple levels, right? We need a method of getting from one scene to the next. And that's where the gateway comes in. Bum, bum, bum. We're going to have our statues, our spawners, turn into gateways if the player destroys them. So they'll have a certain amount of health. The player attacks them. Of course, this is precarious because that's where the zombies spawn. And eventually we'll even make it random. So it's not always one statue or both statues as gateways. Once we have that gateway, we get to build out level 2 or 3 or 2. Let's get going. So keep in mind, all the assets are in the description. Let's pick up where we left off. We have our spawners. We need a way to get from one level to the other. What would be a good approach to this? If you are shouting Game Manager, you are correct. So, great. Now let's make our Game Manager script that will help us, bring this in. Just going to reset the transform, go to scene. And add the script. And let's make sure to stay organized. I love that the game manager's a gear. Awesome. And so what we want this to do, this needs to know how many spawns there are. So we're going to do a public game object spawners. And let's go ahead now and make it so we can randomize some aspects of the spawners and have, use them for multiple spawners. To fill this game object spawners, we actually can go ahead and privatize it. Well, no, we'll leave it public for reference, but how it's going to be filled is using okay, and make sure you do game objects with tag, and what this does is return an array to fulfill spawners of all the game objects with the tag spawner. All right. Now, once we have that, let's go ahead and use a random number to pick which one will be the gateway, because as we already set up before, the gateway is right here. So is it a gateway? Is it not? And so let's make a tag to make sure we select only one gateway. Otherwise, they'll just blow up the statue and nothing is there. Spawners.length, and keep in mind for random range, if it's an integer, it starts at 0 and it will go to this minus 1. So that's all the possibilities for the index of our spawner. We're going to set gateway to true. This is getting long. To help clarify, I often do this. It's good for error checking too. For our random number, I'm going to do int rnd, and it's going to be equal to this. And then we can get all of our code on the screen as well. Perfect. And what happens here, spawners random get component set gateway to true. So we're grabbing whatever random number we got and setting the gateway variable to be equal to true. So that will be the one gateway. All the others will just explode. Now let's go ahead and loop through each one because I want to randomize health a bit too. It adds a fun element of unpredictability to a game. Yeah, let's go ahead and do So now this would make it so the statues or the spawners have a random amount of health, 3 to 6. To increase difficulty with each level, I often will do something like this. So have a level integer and then say level plus, and so it will slowly raise the amount of health the spawners have, therefore making the game more difficult as you go. Let me make sure this is all looking good. So let's just save and then shrink this. Take a look. Let's make sure we have this labeled. Yes, so that's spawner. I did get that labeled. If you don't, just click add tag, and here it is. You just add it there. So my spawner is labeled. I thought, okay, I want to make sure to freeze these guys, and let's go ahead and hide the enemy. And then to make sure I can still just check this out without enemies, let me double check. I think I did it. Yeah, so I want to, if you don't have these uncommented yet, or commented / so we don't have to deal with enemies while we're working on this. Let me save all that again, and let me hit play. So any errors? No, that's looking good. The sprite was randomized. Awesome. Let's do it again. And let's have multiple spawners. Well, for now, let's check the health. So how many hits? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so that's what we expected. All right, now let's go ahead and add another spawner. And we have a few options. We could do a prefab of this, which actually I think I will do. And I believe we already had that set up. Yep. So if you don't, you just want to pull down your spawner and drop it in here. Prefab spawner. So I'm going to go ahead and drop another one. Maybe here-ish. Let me just double check where these are. I want to make sure they're in all right spots. And we'll leave that as is, I guess. Okay, now let's see what happens. So that one didn't have a gateway. And that one did. Okay, and so to double check, let's go ahead and put some comments. Down here in is gateway, let's do a and then let's have the game object name so we know which one. So it should be this one. Boom. Cool. And we got it. And no gateway. Sadness. So the one thing I want to make sure is that we have an explosion for both. So, because it looked like the explosion wasn't popping up for the one that's not a gateway. And game manager. Nope. Oh, because it's destroyed right away. So let's go ahead and do a function for this. I'm going to copy that. Destroy spawner. Copy that. .6. Why not? Let's live a little. Get rid of that. So now let's make sure we test it out with zombies. So let's get rid of these comments. There. And then I was noticing earlier the disappearing blood. Let's go do a little bit of editing here. Yeah, right here. The sprite renderer, nope. We shouldn't destroy the child object because it can conflict with this. What I'm going to do instead is we'll just hide it upon death. So right here, instead of destroying it, let's just make sure we hide it. All right, let's try this all out. Rah! Die, 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 die. Oh, and I got hit 3 times. So we should destroy the character most likely. Now I'm getting pushed around everywhere. Yada, yada, yada. All right. Oh, since I'm still alive. Boom. So that must not have been our staircase. Boom, and we found it. Oh, we should also make it, if it's on the staircase, we don't want it to explode. Let's put a limit in for zombies, and then let's make a level 2. All right. So for zombies, I'm going to use, zombies are spawned within our spawner, but I'm going to have game manager, and we're going to do a private int zombie count equals 0. And then every time a zombie is spawned, we're going to set it equal to, well, whatever. So spawn index, instantiate time, timer. Yep. So we want a way to adjust our zombie count. Int amount is how much we're adding. Zombie count equals whatever zombie count used to equal plus this new amount. And then we're also going to need a way to not remove a zombie, because we could just put this in as a negative number. To get the amount? No, we'll control that within. Yeah, we'll need to know the amount. Okay. And we're going to need a way to check the amount. And so that will just be a traditional public void. And by public void, I mean int. And this should be zombie count. Great. And now in our spawners, we can do let's set up the game manager. Set zombie count, and if we're spawning one, we want a 1 in here. And then on update, this is where we now can pick how many zombies we want on this level. And so we can change this easily. Let's just have a zombie limit accessible through the game manager. I'll say 10 for this first one, public int. We're going to have a private int. Zombie limit, return zombie limit. So if it is time to spawn a new one, and zombie limit, so we need if game manager dot get zombie limit, and I'm going to need game manager dot get zombie count. So if zombie count is less than the current limit, then we'll let them spawn. There we are. Now, though, we also need to, when a zombie dies, take away a zombie death. So let's head over to enemy script, and right here on death is where we would want to do that. So we're going to want the game manager attached to this as well. And then right in here on death, we'll wait till enemy has been destroyed. Game manager. Set zombie count, -1. And now let's go ahead and test. All right, and let's go to the spawner and make sure to drag in game manager. We'll need one here and here. Actually, instead of doing this for each spawner, let's just set it up so that happens automatically for us. Game manager is not what we need. We need spawner, game manager right here. I'm just gonna copy this inside of start. I wanna do paste game manager equals game object. Game object define game manager, get component, because remember game manager is here, but it also has components, and the component script is the game manager script. And that should take care of that. Save all that. And then we shouldn't have to worry about dragging it in each time for the spawner. Yeah. All right. And then for enemy, we should, let's do the same thing now that we got it all hashed out. Just going to copy this. Inside of start, paste it so we have game manager. I'm just going to make this private. Save all that. All right, let's try this out. Did we put? So right here, right now we're not counting the first sprites. And so if we want to do that, we would just need to drop this up here somewhere and then put 2. All right, now let's try. So right now we have 4. And you'll notice it has stopped at 10. So that way the sprites never get too wild. Oh no! We should definitely give us more health, for sure. But let's also go ahead and start working on level 2. Or maybe the enemy's hit should be weaker. Decisions. I like a challenge. Oh, here. Hit strength. Perfect. 10 it is. All right. Boom, boom, yes. And this is looking good. So we can start working on a next level so we can, well, travel to it with our gateway, our staircase. So for the next level, I'm going to do what we did the first time around. I will be using those tile palettes. So I'll probably just kind of speed through this, but if you need any info on tile palettes or how to do that, you should refer to, well, me doing that. The earlier videos or sections. Make sure you save before you rename your scene. What you're about to witness me do is rename my scene and not have saved it recently, so I have to throw back in all the prefabs and stuff. Thankfully, prefabs are easy. The text was less so. So I'm just going to get the game back to where it was real quick. All right, I'm going to make level 2, and then we're going to work on maybe zombie animations, as well as having the player easily be able to face one way or the other. I'll be naming level 2, well, shockingly, level 2. And then I'm going to be adding to the tile map. I'm fast forwarding through it now because if you need help with tile maps, you can check out earlier in the series. But I'll add to the tile map and then start building it out on the grid. For the ground, remember the scale can't be this. You want the cell size to be 0.33 for the grid. And through the magic of YouTube's, I'm done. Yay! All right, so here's what's mine looking like. Keep in mind, these doors right here, I want to point out, they are actually sprites. All right, so I just looked for doors down here. I grabbed a few, and that's because I'm going to have this be where the 2 possible points where the player spawns at. So let's see here, which door is this? I also want to show you, this here is wall, because I didn't want the player, my wall is what I'm going to put a collider on, and I didn't want the player to be able to walk over a building. But if you have it as wall, everything under the door needs to be, well, empty, because otherwise a player would collide with the door and it would not be pretty. I'm just going to call this lower door, and then this one will be upper door. So let's get out of that mode. And my beautiful map that we can start messing around with. How I got this effect, by the way, I just painted the whole thing with tile and then randomly smeared dirt everywhere. That's what I did. Keep in mind with grid, 0.3, 0.3, and the rest, I doubled the size of path just to give my path, well, larger tiles. It's a nice effect for some of the layers. We could dive into the code. Now, to get our scene up and running in the game manager, we are going to want to make sure that we can keep track of some of the data. We're also going to need to do a scene manager load next scene, but that makes me aware of we need to load the scenes to begin with. So I'm going to make sure to hit save on this. And then this is my level 2. So I'm going to go to scenes now. Level 1, open that up. File. Build settings. And notice scenes, we don't have any. Well, boom, now we do. We have 1. And let's go here. And I'm going to open up 2 again. And I need to work on that, but that's fine. Add scene, and we are good there. All right, let me just make sure my grid is, this is going to be 0 default. This should be 1 because it's the path. And then I'm going to make walls 2. Okay. I also am going to need to make a collider added to those. We'll do that in a moment. And then lower door, both of these should be objects. And great, that is looking good. And what we want to have occur is when the player touches the item that is a staircase, or is the gateway, we want the player to load the next scene. So for that, we can go into spawn scripts, and then what we can do is check if it is a gateway. So we have set gateway, but let's have, just going to copy, get gateway, and then this is going to return a bool. And what it's going to return, how we will know, is it's going to return the result of, up here, see how we set this right to gateway? I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it, except now I'm going to do 2 equals. How we can use this now is with the player script. So we're going to check on collision, entry, enemy. We need to see, I'm copying that and writing else, paste, cleaning that up a bit. And so else if compare tag spawner, if the tag is spawner, what do we want to do? Well, we want to do collision game object dot get component, and we want to get the spawner script. And in the spawner script, we want to run get gateway. And what get gateway is going to do is spawner get gateway. What we'll have this do actually, instead of decisions, does, if player has the game manager script, no, what spawner does. Yeah. Okay. So instead of having, let's change this from get gateway to, yeah, get gateway is good because then we can know if it's the next level. Okay, so we're going to get gateway. We'll leave it as that. Get gateway down here is perfect, but we want to know, instead of returning this, we're going to do if it's the gateway. So if that's true, then we're going to want to load the next scene. I would prefer to load next scene from game manager, and so that's exactly what we're going to do. Let me void this out. Let me do a public in game manager. I'll call this load level. And within it, we first are going to need scene manager at the top up here. I was trying to be cheap. Scene management. There we are. And now down here, we can ask for the next scene to be loaded. +1 or ++. So what we're saying is all of the builds, all of the scenes in the scene manager, grab those, go to the next one in the list. Let's save all of this. Let me just make sure here. And now we just want to make sure to go back here and call it. So remember, we already have the game manager here. Yep, lowercase. And then we named that. All looks good. Now, keep in mind when the gateway becomes a gateway, right? When the statue becomes a gateway, if we hit it enough, we can still kill it. We'll still make it explode. So we do want to prevent that as well before we test all of this. And that's because up here, so if health is less than 0, what do? Well, if it is a gateway, right? Open gateway, otherwise destroy spawner. And we set the death sprite each time. What we could do then is also have a Boolean right here, and we could just see if it's less than 0, but it can't already be gateway. So for that, we're going to want to stop not just here, but the whole thing, because we don't want health to be impacted anymore, and we don't want it to be able to change colors and go red. So if it's a gateway, we want all of this closed off at that point. So if a gateway, and then I'm actually going to chop that off and put it down here. So if it's a gateway, that's wrong. We want to know if it's not a gateway. Because if it is a gateway, we don't want it to turn red. We don't want any of that. Once it's a gateway, we want to leave it alone. So let's save all of that. The other thing we're going to take care of is once it is a staircase or a gateway, we don't want it to keep spawning the bad guys, right? So it's dead. It shouldn't. So when we open the gateway, like here we destroy the game object, we're going to copy this, return it to the gateway, and then we're going to destroy the 2 children. And we'll do that by, like we have done before, game object. Okay, and actually I'm just going to copy this, paste it, and switch to 1, save all that. So now we have the 2 children game objects that will be destroyed. Now, let's make sure, along with that, that we retain the player and the health and the weapon as the game goes on, as we move into the next level. So we're going to need up here those game objects. And now what we want to retain upon loading a new level is the health bar and our experience. To do that, it's actually just going to be one game object, and that's the canvas. We can just do a don't destroy for the entire canvas. HUD canvas, we'll call it. And then all of this needs to be in an awake function. I don't need the private. And pretty straightforward. It's literally don't destroy and load. And we're targeting the game object, so. Just like this. Keep in mind the weapon has the child, right? The weapon's collider, and that will be also retained or saved. It's not going to get destroyed because we're saving the parent, the actual weapon. Let's make sure to save all that and test. let's get the game manager here, and we need to fill these in. Player. So I don't always die, actually, because the player always dies. I made the enemy so strong. Let's go ahead and real quick, and I'm gonna set my health high just for fun. 500, we'll say. And to do this, I'm gonna need a new variable, start health. Start health is going to be equal to health within, well, our start function. And the reason we want this is if I'm going to be changing health to 500, I need to make sure when I change the size down here, I don't do it by 100 anymore. I do it by whatever health was originally, and that will adjust the bar correctly. Yeah, that looks good. Make sure to save, and zoop. And let's test. And notice my health changing a whole lot less. Okay, so there. Found it. Die, jerk. And boom. And all of this loaded, and my player loaded. Awesome. And we should still have. So now we just want to set up the spawners. With a working gateway in our dungeon crawler to other dungeon areas or new dungeons, I don't know. What we need now is a start scene, right? They usually start at Earth, at least they will in this game, just like Diablo. And we want to make sure to clean up a bit, make sure that we don't have any leftover objects as we spawn our player in different areas. So we'll be working on that next time. Make sure to like, make sure to hit subscribe. Gives me warm fuzzies and all of that. Also, if you're building something really cool or making this better or have a question or a funny joke, comment below.